Page 39. A Short Introduction to the History of Human Stupidity, Walter B. Pitkin, 1932. 1.4. Taboo. Buddha and Jesus regarding the stupidity. Amazing the law about the stupid. Amazing in its scarcity, in its meagreness, in its casual superficiality. Search all the poets, minstrels, prophets, soothsayers, and chroniclers, and you will find hardly more than a light line or two. It almost seems as though mankind had turned its back on this, its most terrible scourge, perhaps because even the dull wits of the stupid had ever sensed that the thing was a Gorgon's head, one fair sight of which would turn the beholder to stone. In this, alas, the dull have proved right. For the dreadfulest chapter of human history remains unwritten as long as the learned refrain from investigating stupidities past and present. Even the pitifully brief short introduction which ensues here gives only a twinkling glimpse, only a monosyllabic cry. In the presence of such flashes the heart sickens, the intellect grows numb. The hideous discovery of Street. Paul that God hath chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise halts with that observation. Only one great man, so far as we can discern in interminable annals, has ever pushed on ruthlessly and come to contemplate the scourge at close range. He was Gautama Buddha. He too, alone among the world's ranking thinkers, has properly appraised it. He finds only three cardinal sins, raga, or sensuality, dosa, or ill will, and moha, or stupidity. Of these he regards stupidity as by far the worst in every respect. His entire technique of attaining aratship, nirvana, was based upon the progressive extermination of the trio of limitations. Contrary to the all too prevalent notion among Americans, nirvana was not thought of as a state in which all desires and feelings were crushed, rather was it a positive state of blessedness attainable in this life. The thinkers on record in the Old Testament lacked Buddha's deep insight, but they did realize the menace of the stupid. For a dream cometh through the multitude of business, and a fool's voice is known by multitude of words. V:3. It is better to hear the rebuke of the wise, than for a man to hear the song of fools. 7:5. The words of wise men are heard in quiet more than the cry of him that ruleth among fools. 9:17. The words of a wise man's mouth are gracious, but the lips of a fool will swallow up himself. X:12 and 13. A foolish woman is clamorous, she is simple, and knoweth nothing. Proverbs 9:13. Etc., etc., for some 20 or so proverbs. True, all true, you say. Yet they barely graze the subject. It is touch and go, always. Thus ever down the ages. Can you find a learned man who has devoted years to the study of stupid folk? I have been able to locate only two, Dr. Max Kemmerich's Ausdegschicht der menschlichen Dummheit and Lohnfeldsver die Dummheit, einem Skauemgebiet menschlicher Unselangleichkeit. Yet men have spent decades watching cockroaches, counting flies' eggs, diagramming the patterns on butterflies' wings, taking a census of bees, and putting mice through the third degree. How odd that all have evaded what Buddha, some 25 centuries ago, found to be one of the most important things in man's world. Is there not something of a mystery in the fact that our own little band of investigators toiled for weeks in the immense Central Library of New York City in search of whatever might bear upon human stupidity, and found only a few short essays, skits, verses, and rather feeble jokes? Is it not of more than passing interest that, among scores of widely read, well-informed friends and acquaintances to whom I turned for suggestions and leads, not a single one had ever collected information about stupid people, nor had any literary references over and above the same half-dozen which kept cropping up repetitiously. This was not true, to be sure, of the cases they reported. Does it not strike you as significant that in the entire Encyclopaedia Britannica neither mention nor discussion of stupidity occurs? Is it not something more than chance that in all of Bartlett's familiar quotations we can find only a thin sprinkling of brief lines on the subject? May it not indicate that men shun what they know they cannot master? May they not have some curious animal instinct of leaving the stupid in peace, inasmuch as Gegen damit kämpfen selbst Gott Vergebens? Not until all the material for this short introduction had been gathered and studied did light begin to break. And it was brought to me by the devastating words of Jesus, in his Sermon on the Mount, "But I say unto you, that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment, and whosoever shall say to his brother, Raca, vain fellow, shall be in danger of the council, but whosoever shall say, Thou fool, shall be in danger of hellfire." Then and there Jesus fixed the policy of Christendom for all time, appealing to the meek and the lowly. He understood perfectly the fatal folly of telling them the truth about themselves. Doubtless too he had some insight into their extreme simplicity, for were they not all peasants and fishermen and peddlers and beggars and outcasts? Then too, he sincerely believed in the goodness and the power and the glory of the common folk. Ye are the light of the world. Ye are the salt of the earth. Out of them he was weaving a world movement. So with full awareness of the consequence of his words, he made taboo the very accusation of stupidity. And all who took the Sermon on the Mount to heart, then and since, have, in the larger sense, respected the taboo. So, you see, we have to do with perhaps the deepest difference between the culture of the East and the culture of the West. We twang no minor chord on the harp of history. Rather do we force upon a reluctant and dying civilization the spectacle of its own most colossal stupidity, to wit, its unwillingness, during 2,000 years, to admit, discuss and strive to conquer its own stupidity. Buddha saw stupidity as mankind's blackest plague, its interminable pandemia, and, seeing it, he set himself to study man's best methods of overcoming it. Jesus never understood its significance. On the contrary, while observing the main fact at least in part, he set high value upon the meek and the lowly, most of whom are dreadfully stupid, and discouraged their criticizing of human folly. So the Christian attitude tends to be one of glossing over dullness, sluggish thinking, blundering, and every other form of stupid behavior. The Christian regards the truth about a fool as a sort of indecent exposure, and the truth-teller himself as obscene. Hence the empty shelves in the libraries where whole volumes dealing with inferior minds ought to be available. Hence too the rage of the stupid against even the simplest, honestest investigation of human intelligence. Observe, if you will, the furious attacks upon psychological tests by the conventional moralists and religionists, especially during and after the World War. Hence, the swift decay of the cult of the stupid during the past half-century. The younger leaders of the Western world have disembarrassed themselves of such evil attitudes as that expressed by Paul in his words, "If any man among you seemeth to be wise in this world, let him become a fool, that he may be wise. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness with God. The Lord knoweth the thoughts of the wise, that they are vain." We are ready to go back to the point at which Buddha dropped the problem of human stupidity and make a fresh start. We are prepared, with spiritual fortitude no less than with scientific curiosity, to cast off the shackles of Christian stupidity and to observe, record, analyze, and appraise the fool in his folly, that we may, by knowing it and him better, Deliver ourselves from savagery and superstition. Page 42.